Hi, and welcome to the Heart of a Perfectionist podcast. I'm your host, Tegan Thompson. I'm a book lover, a chocoholic, and an INTJ living in a world filled with extroverts. I made this podcast to share my experiences and struggles as an introverted perfectionist, and to bring the inner workings of an introvert's mind to introverts and extroverts alike. So grab a cup of tea and get comfortable. It's time to unmute. Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Heart of a Perfectionist. I just want to start by saying that this past week the washer in my house leaked, and so the floor flooded, and right now we're having it all fanned out to dry. So I really apologize if there's any background noise or anything. I just wanted to start with that, and this week we will be talking about a few ways you can shift your thinking and your mindset to better your mental health. So we're kind of taking a trip back to mental health. I said I would come back to this again just because I'm a big advocate for mental health. So I think that this is so important. This has been something I have been working on a lot lately. And through this process, I've noticed a lot of people in my life, they don't always have the healthiest mindset when it comes to kind of dealing with some things with their mental health and just like things that pertain to their mental health. And so I thought, other people could probably benefit from an episode on shifting your mindset and learning how to have a mindset that benefits your mental health rather than negatively impacts it. And I came across this quote earlier in the week while I was on Pinterest, and it really was kind of the thing that made me start thinking I wanted to talk about this for the episode this week. So I just want to read the quote really quick. So it's, "If it doesn't positively serve my mental health, then it is shifting me into mental illness, and that's a risk I'm no longer willing to take." And I just love this quote first thing because it's really been something I have been trying to focus on a lot, and it kind of just put everything that I've been working on into words, and it felt really great to read. But I just think it's so important because I feel like people sometimes forget about that. They're like, oh, well, it's not quite benefiting me or benefiting my mental health, but that's okay. It's, I don't want to cause any problems, or I don't want to lose this or whatever, right? And what you don't realize is if it's not positively benefiting and supporting your mental health, it is shifting you into mental illness. And at some point you have to ask yourself, are you willing to put up with that anymore? Or do you want to be at a point in your life, do you want to grow where you're not going to keep letting those negative influences in your life and surround you or anymore, right? So I kind of like to tell myself well, this relationship maybe with a friend or something isn't benefiting me, and it's actually hurting me and causing things to be brought up that are hurting my mental illness. Is that something I want to keep putting up with? And the answer for me right now is no, because I'm no longer willing to keep putting my mental health at risk anymore, even if that means kind of releasing things that have been in my life for a while. So I just have 3 kind of big ways that you can shift your mindset. And the first thing is to stop procrastinating. And I say this in terms of people, you hear people say this a lot, like, I'll do blank when blah, 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 right? For example, I'll find a new job when I feel more secure financially, right? And so some other examples of that. So you have switching jobs or careers, living the healthy lifestyle that you have wanted to live, whether that may be weight loss or muscle gain or eating cleaner or waking up earlier or meditating, etc., right? Also, maybe completing or starting that project that you've always wanted to do. For me, it's been writing my novel. I've wanted to write a novel for so long, and I've started it, and I kind of just got stuck, and I haven't really kept going with it. And so it's something I've been working on, is like keep pushing through with that, right? I want to do that, so do it. Traveling, an exception to this is COVID. If your reason is you're not traveling is because of COVID or was because of COVID, okay, that's different. But I know a lot of people want to travel, and I feel like you can find a way to do that if it's really something you want to do. And also chores. I know that this is probably not something people want to think about, but a lot of the time we try to push back doing chores. I don't want to clean the kitchen or do the dishes or take out the trash or whatever it is. And it just can be really hard sometimes, I think, to get yourself up and go do it. A little thing I've been trying to work on is if it will take me 10 minutes or less, just do it now. It's 10 minutes of my time. If I have the time for it, I might as well just do it right now instead of waiting until I think I might be ready for it. But in all honesty, I don't think I ever will want to do it, right? So, just getting up and do it now. It doesn't have to be 10 minutes. You can set yourself a different goal. It could be 3 minutes. It could be 2 minutes. It could be 1 minute. It could be whatever it is. But maybe set yourself a goal hey, if this chore, this thing needs to be done and it's only going to take 2 minutes of my time, let me go do it right now, right? And I say this because when you think like this, when you think oh, I'll do something when blah, 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 right? You're telling yourself that you can't live the life you want, which makes you the obstacle in the way to your happier life that you have envisioned for yourself, right? So you're the one holding yourself back. It's not someone else. It's not your situation. It's your mindset, right? In a big way to shift this mindset is to instead try to ask yourself, what can you do right now to get you closer to achieving your goals? So it doesn't have to be that you go and do it right now, right? You may want to travel, but you can't go do it right now. But can you maybe financially budget for it, or plan it into your schedule, or plan out where you want to travel to and how you'll do it, who you'll go with, blah, blah, blah. What can you do right now that will get you closer to achieving that goal? Or what's stopping you from doing it now? Big one I ask people is with waking up earlier. I do this with myself as well. I've always been I want to wake up earlier so that I can get an early start to my day, eat breakfast, just feel refreshed and ready to go throughout the day. It's but I'll do that in a couple months or something, right? It's what's really stopping me from doing it right now? And it's nothing. All I have to do is go to bed earlier and then set an alarm, wake up, and consistently keep doing that so that it becomes a habit, right? So sometimes there's really nothing in the way of you doing what you want to do. It's just your mindset, and you need to ask yourself, what's holding you back from it? because sometimes it's really just you. So try asking yourself those questions instead of thinking like, oh, I'll do this in the future, or I'll do it when I'm in a better situation, or whatever, right? Try to figure out what you can do now that will get you closer to achieving your goals, or what's stopping you from doing it now. And if it's just you, putting a plan in place so that you can be successful, right? So that you're consistent and doing it every day, right? You need to keep practicing it so that it becomes a habit. The second way you can shift your mindset is to stop people pleasing and learn to say no. I know this is a really big one with a lot of people. So a healthy mindset to pleasing others involves being considerate and respectful of other people's thoughts, emotions, and needs when you're making decisions, while also keeping in mind your needs and your limitations and your emotions and your thoughts, right? While on the other hand, people-pleasing disregards your own needs and your own limitations in order to keep others happy. And people-pleasing often comes from a place of having a fear of rejection and a fear of not being accepted by other people. And, that's a big fear a lot of people have, especially in society today, where, a lot of people seek external validation in order to feel like they fit in or they're good enough, right? But it's so important to know, when to say no to other people, because it can interfere with your mental health a lot. People pleasing often, it starts off with, saying yes to simple things. And then eventually you're kind of just saying yes to everything for that person because you're afraid that they're not going to like you anymore, or they're not going to want to associate with you anymore, or whatever, right? And then you just start saying yes even when it's hurting you. Sometimes you just need a break. A big thing for me was with my friends, and I was going through a rough time, and they wanted to hang out all the time, and I kind of had to just be like, not today. Like, I can't today. I need my space so that I can kind of just be in the right mindset. I don't think I can hang out today because I just don't feel up for it. And they would get mad at me because it's like, we just want to hang out. Like, we don't have to do anything like draining or anything. And I'm like, I get that, but like right now I just need to be home by myself. Like, that's what I need for myself. And at first it was really hard to do that because I didn't want to let them down. I didn't want them to think that I didn't want to hang out with them or I didn't like them anymore. But over time I was like, but I'm doing this for myself, right? And it's important for me to have this space by myself so that I can heal and I can become the best version of myself. So it's especially important to know when to say no when it involves requests that could interfere with your mental health, right? Or areas of your life that are important to you. And this could be religion, education, family, etc., right? It's really easy to fall down that rabbit hole of just saying yes, even though it interferes with something important to you, or it interferes with your mental health. So it's definitely something you have to learn how to do, and you have to practice a lot, because, like I said, it can be difficult at first to say no. It can be scary, it can be hard. But the more you do it, and the more you recognize what you need and what your limits are when it comes to certain activities and certain people and certain different things in your life, right? You start to recognize that saying no actually allows you to keep strong relationships and strong performance in maybe your work life or in relationships and stuff like that. So learn to say no. I will probably do an episode on this in the future, just because I do know how hard it can be, and how scary it can be to actually implement this in your life. It's really easy to say it. Just learn to say no. Just say no to them. It's fine. But in reality, like, you have a lot of conflicting thoughts and feelings about it, and so it can actually be very hard. And I totally and completely understand that. But, the more you try to recognize it and implement it and practice it in your life, the easier it will get, because you are benefiting yourself. And then the third thing I have kind of fits in with the second thing a little bit. It's learning when to remove people from your life. So it's kind of like learning when to say no to somebody being in your life. I think the biggest thing with this is to always ask yourself, is this person helping me grow and achieve and celebrate my accomplishments, or are they holding me back from growing and from achieving those goals I have? And if they're holding you back, they're really not an ally in your life. And I know it can be hard to accept that when maybe they've been in your life for a really long time, or they've been really important to you. It can be really hard to accept that, and I fully understand that. But always asking yourself that, and then going back to the quote I mentioned in the beginning, is like, are you willing to keep putting up with that and keep putting your mental health at risk for this person? Is something you kind of need to ask yourself. Is there really anyone that you are willing to risk your mental health going into mental illness? For me, the answer is no. But people have different answers to that, and that's okay. But it's really important to surround yourself with people who are not only going to help you grow and achieve your goals, but who are going to celebrate it when you do achieve those things, because they're there for you 100%, and they want what's best for you in life. And those are the people who are going to keep pushing you to be the best version of yourself. And that always feels so good, right? And it's really healthy for your mental health also, because you have that support system that you need. So this one is hard to really shift your mindset, and more just something you should be aware of, right? For some people, cutting people out of their life cold turkey is easy. And for other people, they need to kind of gradually do it, and that's different for everyone, and however you may need to do that is fine. But just being aware of how that person is affecting you and how they're helping you achieve the things in life that you want to achieve is important to be aware of. And if it takes you a couple weeks, a couple months, a couple years, I don't know, to kind of fully release a toxic person in your life, that's okay, because eventually you did release them, and you're going to kind of spread your wings and fly right? I just think it's so important, you don't need to keep everyone in your life just because they've come into your life. Sometimes people are meant to come in, teach you a lesson, and then leave, and that's it. And other people are meant to come in and stay with you and hold you up when you need them to, okay? So it's something to be aware of, also something to practice too, I guess. It's not something you can practice as much as saying no, because you don't want to just cut people off from your life all the time. You want to, be mindful when you're doing it as well. So, but yeah. So those are kind of the 3 ways to shift your mindset so I'll just go over them again, right? The first thing was to stop procrastinating when it comes to the goals you have set for yourself, right? Try to find a way that you can get closer to achieving that goal, or ask yourself what's holding you back. The second thing was stop people pleasing and learn to say no. So this one, being aware and practicing, and learning about about yourself, so that you know what you need and what your limitations are. And then the third thing was learn when to remove people from your life. And this is just being aware of how people are impacting your life, whether it's benefiting and healthy for your mental health and for your life in general, or if it's negatively impacting you and holding you back, right? So kind of just to go back to the quote from the beginning, right? I'll restate it. If it doesn't positively serve my mental health, then it is shifting me into mental illness, and that's a risk I'm no longer willing to take, right? So I'm going to challenge you going forward to kind of just ask yourself, what is positively serving your mental health, right? And how can you bring that into your life more? And then at the same time, what is negatively impacting your mental health, and what you can do what can you do to change that? It's so important to note that this isn't something that's just going to change overnight. You're not going to hear this and be like, okay, I'm going to do this, and tomorrow you're going to be perfect at it. It's definitely something that takes patience, consistency, and a lot of practice to become a habit that serves you in a healthy way. So don't expect it to just be instant. It's definitely going to take some time, and that's okay. You're going to mess up sometimes. That's okay. But it's just so important to be aware of how things are impacting you, and learning from the mistakes you make and so forth, right? And then also just being aware that a lot of these things are uncomfortable. Saying no to people is uncomfortable. Cutting people out of your life is uncomfortable, right? That one's especially uncomfortable. But it's important to acknowledge that, these brief discomforts you may have are going to allow for long-term benefits to your mental health and to your ability to accomplish the goals you have set for yourself. So, thank you so much for listening to this week's episode of the Heart of a Perfectionist podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, or if you learned anything new, please go share it with a friend. And as always, have a great weekend, and I look forward to seeing you guys again next week on the Heart of a Perfectionist podcast.